All right, so are you ready to dive in? Today, we're tackling something I think we all want to get a better handle on, right? Success. What is it really about?
A question that's fascinated people for, well, probably forever.
I mean, is it all about raw talent? Or
We
is there
can,
something else going on? That's what we're going to explore. And we're going to use Malcolm Gladwell's book, Outliers, as our guide. Have you had a chance to read it?
oh, absolutely. It's one that really makes you rethink some assumptions.
Yeah, he kind of flips the script, you know? Like, forget that whole lone genius myth. He says success is often about these hidden advantages and opportunities that we don't always see.
It's about the context, the environment, even things like cultural legacies that we might not even realize are shaping things.
By the end of this, you might even see your own path a little differently. So, to kick things off, Gladwell throws us this curveball with the story of Roseto, Pennsylvania. Back in the 1950s, this town had unbelievably low rates of heart disease, like defying all the medical trends at the
It
time.
was a real head scratcher for doctors.
And get this, they weren't health nuts. They ate the same, rich foods as everyone else, but they just weren't having heart attacks like people in the neighboring towns.
Yeah, the researchers were baffled at first. They looked at diet, exercise, genetics, you name it, but they couldn't find the answer.
So, what was the secret ingredient?
Well, it turned out that the secret wasn't some miracle cure. It was their community. The Rosens had these incredibly strong social bonds. They had close families. They supported each other. And you know what? That sense of connection, that social fabric, it acted like a buffer against stress. It was a huge factor in their overall health.
So, it's like their community was this shield protecting them from the pressures of modern life. Makes you think,
Well,
right, what's the social health of our own communities? How much does our environment impact our chances of success?
it really flips the script on the idea that success is all about individual grit and willpower.
Right. It's just that the people around us, the places we live, these things play a huge role.
Absolutely. It's not just about you against the world.
But, okay, let's talk about individual effort for a minute. Gladwell also explores this thing called the 10,000-hour rule. Is there like a magic number to becoming a master at something?
Well, there's some fascinating research on this. This psychologist, K. Anders Ericsson, he studied violinists at this top-tier music academy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he found that the best of the best, they weren't just naturals. They had simply practiced the most, like way more than anyone else.
Okay, but how much are we talking?
They'd often put in something like, get this, 10,000 hours of dedicated practice.
Oh, 10,000 hours. So anyone could be like a virtuoso violinist if they just like practice that much.
I mean, it's not quite that simple.
Ugh.
Talent does play a part, no doubt.
Hmm.
But Ericsson's work, it suggests that it's the consistent, dedicated effort that really sets these high achievers apart.
So like, are we as a society too focused on like spotting talent and not focused enough on creating environments where people can put in that kind of dedication?
It's a good question.
Hmm.
Are we looking for shortcuts when what we really need is to create spaces where people can put in the work?
Hmm. That's a good point. Okay, but let's bring in another layer to this. Let's say you have the talent, you put in the work, but then there's this other piece. Opportunity. Gladwell tells these parallel stories, right? About Bill Joy and Bill Gates. Both like brilliant young programmers, right? Went on to become giants in the software world.
Yeah, and their stories are fascinating because they highlight how much opportunity matters.
What's interesting is that they both had this crazy access to computers back in the early 70s when, computers were rare and expensive.
Yeah, Bill Joy, while he was at the University of Michigan, he found himself at one of the most advanced computer science programs, like in the world. He could basically program as much as he wanted.
And Gates?
His private school, they bought a time-sharing terminal, and he was only 13. Think about that.
So it's not just about being smart, right? It's about these like almost accidental encounters with the right resources at the right time.
They were both super bright, but without those chances, who knows what might have happened.
Think about it, Have there been times in your life when you just stumbled into an opportunity that changed everything? Maybe a mentor, a chance encounter, just being in the right place at the right time.
Those moments can make all the difference. We often forget how much chance and circumstance play a role in our own success stories.
It makes you wonder, though, how many other brilliant people are out there who never get that lucky break. But here's another question that comes up all the time. Is IQ destiny? What about people with, like, sky-high IQs? Are they automatically set up for success?
Not necessarily. The research suggests there's a point where having a higher IQ, it doesn't really translate into greater success.
Yeah, I read something about how a lot of Nobel Prize winners, they didn't go to, like, the super elite universities. They were clearly brilliant, but their IQs weren't necessarily off the charts.
Right, so what gives? What's that missing ingredient?
Well, Gladwell calls it practical intelligence. It's about more than just book smarts.
It's about knowing how to navigate social situations, how to get things done in the real world, how to use your strengths to get where you want to go.
It's like street smarts, right? We all know people who might not ace a standardized test, but are just like amazing at figuring things out and making things happen.
Exactly. Gladwell uses these really compelling examples. He compares Chris Langan, who had an insanely high IQ but struggled in life, with someone like Robert Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer was a brilliant physicist, but he was also incredibly skilled at navigating the complexities of, well, everything.
Like Oppenheimer, he was a master chess player, always thinking a few moves ahead. Makes you think, what are the practical intelligence skills we need to succeed in our own fields?
That's a great question to ponder. It's not always what we think.
Practical intelligence, it's kind of a hidden superpower, isn't it? But, Gladwell takes us on this kind of a darker turn with this whole story about Korean Air and their plane crashes back in the 90s.
Yeah, that was a tough chapter in aviation history for sure.
I mean, I remember those. It was a pretty scary time to fly. So, like, what was going on? Was it pilot error?
It wasn't so much about mechanical issues or like pilots just messing up. The crashes, they were mostly because of communication breakdowns right there in the cockpit.
Really? In the cockpit?
Yeah, and what's crazy is that they linked it back to cultural factors. Like Korean culture at the time had what they call a very high power distance index.
Power distance index. What's that? I never even heard of that.
And redistribution, like how comfortable they are with hierarchy. And in cultures with a high power distance index like South Korea back then, there's this huge emphasis on respecting authority.
Oh, I see. So, like, even in a life or death situation, it would be hard to question someone higher up.
Exactly. It could be really tough for, say, a co-pilot to challenge the captain, even if they saw a problem.
Oh, wow. So you're saying that in some of those crashes, the co-pilots might have seen something wrong but didn't speak up because of cultural norms.
It's a chilling thought, but yeah, there were definitely cases where crucial information wasn't being communicated effectively because of that deeply ingrained respect for authority.
Wow. So what did Korean Air do? Like, how did they address this? Did they change their training programs or something?
They did something pretty radical, actually. They made English the mandatory language in the cockpit.
English. Wait, why English?
Because English, for the pilots and crew, it was basically neutral territory, linguistically speaking. It kind of leveled the playing
Oh,
field.
that's interesting.
Yeah, by switching to English, they could like sidestep some of those ingrained cultural hierarchies.
So they changed the language and that changed the power dynamics. And ultimately, that made flying safer.
It's a pretty fascinating example of how understanding cultural influences and finding ways to kind of work around them can have these huge real-world consequences.
Makes you think, right? Like about other organizations, businesses, even families. How many places have these unspoken rules that might be messing with communication?
It's a good reminder to pay attention to those dynamics and to create environments where everyone feels safe to speak their mind, no matter what their position is.
Absolutely. Cultural influences, they're powerful, and we often don't even realize how much they're shaping our behavior.
We're all products of our cultures, for sure.
Okay, speaking of culture, Gladwell throws us another curveball. He starts talking about, of all things, rice paddies.
Rice paddies. What do those have to do with success? Yeah, it seems random, right?
That's what I thought. So what's the connection?
Well, rice farming, especially in places like China, it's incredibly labor intensive. It requires this like constant effort, attention to detail, and there's no room for slacking off.
Yeah, I've heard that even like young kids are involved in the process, right?
Often, yeah. It's a family affair. And Gladwell argues that this whole agricultural history, it's instilled this culture of like hard work, discipline, perseverance in a lot of Asian societies.
So basically, all those hours in the rice paddies created a work ethic that like helps them succeed in other areas too.
That's the idea. He even talks about studies that show how the structure of number systems in Asian languages actually makes it easier for them to grasp mathematical concepts.
That's interesting. The language itself gives them a leg up. I've always wondered why certain cultures seem to like excel in specific fields.
It really makes you appreciate how deep these cultural influences run.
It's like we inherit these strengths and weaknesses without even realizing it, right?
Carrying a lot more than we think, yeah.
But here's the thing, right? Gladwell says that even a strong work ethic, sometimes it can actually, like, hold you back. He tells this story about a mathematician named Renee and how she got so stuck on this problem that her persistence, her dedication, it actually blinded her to a simpler solution.
Renee's story, it's like a reminder that sometimes we can get so focused on one path that we miss other opportunities.
Yeah, it's like that saying, when you find yourself in a hole, stop digging. But how do you know when to, keep pushing and when to change course?
That's the tricky part, right? It takes a lot of self-awareness and the willingness to step back and say, hey, maybe there's a better way.
And, Gladwell contrasts Renee's experience with this whole other approach, the IPP Academy model.
EPB schools, yeah. They've got a pretty amazing track record of helping kids from low-income backgrounds succeed academically.
KPP, that stands for Knowledge is Power program, right?
Yeah.
And they're not selective. Like, anyone can go there if they want to.
Exactly. They're not just working with the top students. They're working with kids who face all sorts of challenges.
So how do they get such incredible results? What's their secret?
Well, their approach is actually inspired by, get this, the rice paddy model. They have longer school days. They go to school on Saturdays, and their summer break is way shorter than traditional public schools.
Whoa, that's a lot. It seems intense.
It is. But Gladwell explains that KIPP, they understand the reality of the achievement gap. Like middle-class and upper-middle-class families, they often use evenings, weekends, summers to give their kids extra learning opportunities, right? Museum trips, summer camps, just more time to read. KIPP, they're trying to level the playing field by giving their students that same kind of learning time.
So it's like they're saying, look, our kids might be starting behind, but we're going to give them every chance to catch up and even excel. But is it fair to ask that much of them, to give up so much of their free time?
It's a tough question. But, the results speak for themselves. KIPP graduates, they go to college at much higher rates than their peers from similar backgrounds. They're breaking cycles, proving that success is possible even when you're up against huge obstacles.
It's pretty inspiring, actually. It shows you what can happen when you create the right opportunities and foster a culture of achievement. But it also makes you think, right, are we asking too much? Are we sacrificing, childhood in the name of success?
It's something to think about for sure. There's no easy answer. But I think what Camp IP shows us is that providing the right resources and support, it can make a world of difference.
It makes you wonder how we could apply those lessons to, other eras of society. How do we create more opportunities for people who are starting from a disadvantage?
That's a big question. That's something Gladwell really challenges us to think about.
It's kind of like we opened this Pandora's box of, success factors, right? It's not just about how smart you are, but this whole web of opportunities, cultural stuff, even just plain luck.
It really makes you question that whole pull yourself up by your bootstraps narrative, doesn't it?
Totally. We love those stories, look at Bill Gates, built an empire, genius. But Gladwell's saying even Gates needed those lucky breaks to, really take off.
Exactly. Doesn't diminish his hard work or talent, but it shows how success is this, recipe with a bunch of different ingredients.
And I think that's a big takeaway from Outliers. We need to, broaden our definition of success. It's not just about celebrating the people at the top. It's about understanding how they got there, right? And, asking, is the playing field even level?
It's about seeing the bigger picture, not just the individual.
So, okay, if success is so tied to opportunity, where does that leave us? What are we supposed to do with this information?
Well, Gladwell doesn't just drop these crazy stories and leave us hanging. He's challenging us, right?
Right.
He says we need to create a society with more opportunities for everybody. Less about chance, more about access.
So it's not enough to just, understand these ideas. We got to act on them.
That's where the rubber meets the road. It starts with being aware, recognizing the advantages we've been given that maybe we didn't even earn.
Got to check our own privilege, right? See where we got those lucky breaks and then figure out how to pass those opportunities on.
Exactly. Mentorship, better schools, policies that make things fairer, and, using our own success to help others.
So it's a call to action, basically. Go beyond just cheering for success and actually help create it.
It doesn't have to be some huge thing either. It could be volunteering at a school, mentoring someone, even just donating to a good cause.
It's about realizing, I think, that we're all connected, right? Our success, it's often built on this foundation that we didn't necessarily build ourselves.
We stand on the shoulders of giants, as they say.
This whole deep dive, it's really made me think differently about my own path, my wins, my losses, all of it. And honestly, it makes me want to be more deliberate about helping others get those chances.
That's what Gladwell's hoping for, I think. to get us thinking A&D acting, to move past these simple stories about success and really understand how complicated it all is.
It's like success isn't a zero-sum game, right?
Yeah,
We can create more opportunities for everyone without taking anything away from those who've already made it.
exactly.
Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive into Outliers. Hopefully, it's given you some new perspectives on things and maybe even inspired you to, look at your own journey a little differently.
And remember, this is just the start. Keep exploring these ideas, keep asking those tough questions, and keep looking for ways to make this world a place where success is less about luck and more about access for everybody.
We'll see you next time for another deep dive into the ideas that matter.